Can see very well, I suppose.
I can see it on my screen and tell you when I change.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I will first talk about myth killers, and then overpopulation, and then some words about NGOs, and then gene editing, and some closing remarks. This will be the structure. Now, first, the myth killers. You can see a slide from insulin production. You needed a mountain of pancreases in your earlier times, and today it's elegantly made by a bacteria produce the insulin, thanks to an intricate system of biotechnology. It was already Paracelsus, the Swiss philosopher, some centuries ago, who said all things are toxic and nothing is without poison. It is alone the doses which makes things poisonous. This is also true for glyphosate. Glyphosate is not poisonous for human beings. You need to drink 1,000 mugs of beer to feel the glyphosate in it. So it's just not true that glyphosate is something dangerous for humans. You see here on the next slide the toxicity of glyphosate and of caffeine, acute chronic toxicity, and on the right side, chronic toxicity. And it's clear that caffeine is much more toxic than glyphosate. I was in Iran, which is known as a fundamentalist state today. But the science they are doing, and you see here lots of young scientists, they are marvelous, and they have a very high standard in science in Tehran, where I lived for 1 or 2 weeks. They had a revolution going on, but science was not touched by that. They overthrew the Shah, but not the science. The next picture shows that we should be very careful about fundamentalists. The IS, the Islamic State fundamentalists, they have made a lot of money with oil, and this money is transferred to Western banks. You see here in the next slide statistics of how much money, billions, were transferred to Western banks, and they are still sitting there. The IS is a very rich organization, although now minimized politically, but still they have a lot of billions going on thanks to the corrupt Western banking system. So let's talk about vitamin A deficiency. This is a problem which can be solved by biotechnology, by the golden rice. And you see the red states where you have a lot of vitamin A deficiency. And vitamin A deficiency means that you can have a lot of other sicknesses and infections going on because you are much more susceptible when you don't have enough vitamin A. It's not just the vitamin A, it's the deficiency itself which is dangerous. So preventing golden rice is a humanitarian crime, as Greenpeace is going on to do it. The fundamentalists are still against the golden rice, which could solve the problem and has now solved the problem in the Philippines and in Bangladesh. They started to cultivate golden rice, and it solves a lot of problems. So science and the overpopulation now as a second topic. We should not indulge into the ideology of overpopulation per se. A lot of people say 7 billion people are enough for this planet, but Professor Jean Ziegler, who has worked for many years for the United Nations and is a professor in Geneva, he's a very clever person. He wrote this book, Betting on Famine, and he says that the macroeconomic situation is ultimately determining the factor of struggle against hunger. That means that we could have 12 billion people on this earth when we organize it well with our production of food. It's possible. We should not indulge into these pessimistic views of some fundamentalists. Yeah, I jump over a few pictures. I just want to show you the picture of wheat and Triticum durum, the Barilla products from which we eat every day or every week several times. It is made out of a wheat which has been radiated to get better products. But the radiation itself does not hurt the wheat or the spaghettis or the whiskey or 1,800 new plants. It doesn't hurt. So radiation as a means of plant breeding is perfectly okay. And then this thing about GMOs, it's the fundamentalists and lots of NGOs think that GMOs are something toxic and are something artificial. But you have to know that in biotechnology research, we have found out that there are hundreds of natural GMOs growing in the world. One of the best known is the sweet potato. It exactly resembles a GMO in nature, and it has been grown for years, and it stems from 8,000 years ago. A so-called genetically modified crop, which has exactly the same transgenes as modern GMOs. So it's a fairy tale to say genetically modified crops are new. They are very old already, and there are hundreds of naturally genetically modified crops existing. There is a lot of literature about that. It's always cited in the lower part. You can read a lot of original literature. When we talk about the NGOs, I know that there are good and bad NGOs, but I talk about the fanatic ones, and I talk about the billions they receive. According to a statistics some years ago, they made 7.8 billion euro per year. So they are rich companies and make a lot of money and talk a lot of nonsense. No genetic experiments, tells us Greenpeace, and they don't know what they are talking about. I have talked to the fanatics of Greenpeace, and they really are against something. They don't even care how it functions. They are ignorance. Greenpeace is my slogan, not Greenpeace. Now to genetic editing, to gene editing. That's the latest and most modern methods where not full genes are transferred, but only little parts of the genes. You see here the old classic way of breeding, and you see to the right that traditional breeding is always influencing the whole genome and producing a lot of chaos within the genomes. And we sort it out, and we have good results from normal breeding, but we have to know that it's much less precise than modern breeding, for instance, genome editing, where you have a single element then put into the new plant. So it is much less dangerous and has much less risks involved with this new modern breeding methods. It's just the contrary what Greenpeace tells you. I jump over a few slides, and I want to show you one problem of modern agriculture is producing weeds, which are not belonging to the monocultures. And you see that in the red part, the red points are normal breeding, and blue is modern breeding, which is much lower in weed producing. It is also producing some weeds, but much less than the classic methods. Now we jump over the next slide, and I want to show you just that modern breeding now allows the farmers to plow less of the soil, because the plowing the soil is destroying the natural structure of the soil. And you see no tillage, zero tillage to the left, and conventional tillage to the right, and how much it disturbs the maize growing. To the left, you have no tillage, zero tillage, with beautiful maize, big maize plants, and to the right, conventional tillage, which destroys a lot of soil structures, natural soil structures. So it's clear that no tillage is much better, and it can only be achieved properly by modern breeding. Yeah, I just want to show you something about monocultures. Actually, the monospecies fields are a natural phenomenon. When you talk about sorghum in Africa, you see here the full dots, the full black dots. These are all extensive areas of monospecies fields of wild sorghum. So to say monoculture is an artificial thing is just not true. In nature, a lot of monocultures are existing, but they are existing against in the neighborhood of other plants, of course, but still it's not black and white. And there is a lot of literature of monospecies fields of wild sorghum existing in Africa. We all know that we don't want this kind of agriculture. And this can be avoided with modern agriculture, with modern breeding. It is not automatically caused by modern breeding, these monocultures, which are awful and cause a lot of ecological problems. And you have here some literature to tell you that. Well, and if you think that religious organizations are always fundamentalistically against plant breeding, modern plant breeding, you are just dead wrong. in 2009, I participated for 1 week in the Vatican with Bishop Sorondo and the Nobel laureate Werner Arber, organized by Ingo Potrikos. We organized an international conference on biotechnology in the most modern sense of the word. And this was hosted by the Vatican with the academic leader of the Vatican Academy of Science, Sorondo, and by Werner Arber and Ingo Potrikos. And I was the one, you see here the links below, the volume of all the more than 40 scientists of the best of the world. So, and another myth I must kill is that Islam is against science and plant biotechnology. It's just the contrary. You see here the links. I don't want to go into the detail. You can read about the declaration of modern science and plant biotechnology of the highest level of Islam. Yeah. The milestones in plant breeding is here given in a graph in the next slide. And you see that we still make a lot of progress with new methods. Nearly every decade you have established a new method in plant breeding, and it will go on like that. So don't be against innovation. It needs innovation. We need to feed the world population, and we can do it. And we will certainly still go on and make even better cultivated plants in the future. Yeah, the closing remarks. We all know that regulation can be overdone, as this bike is showing symbolically. We all know that a lot of fear exists, and politicians want to be re-elected, so they are dependent on what the population thinks. And often this is one-sided and one-track-minded, as this spectacle is symbolizing. We should, on the contrary, we should go away from this ideological fights of organic farming and modern plant breeding. We should put these things together. I wrote these articles in 2014 and 2009, and first they were heavily criticized that I suggest to combine organic farming with modern plant breeding. But now, step by step, people are accepting this a bit revolutionary view. Let's integrate those two agricultural strategies for the benefit of all farmers. And there is a lot of literature existing about this. I have visited the United States 20, 30 years ago, and in one case we met the Amish farmers, which got the name from my family. Jacob Ammann was actually the founder of the Amish farmers in the southeast of the United States. And here you see an Amish farmer together with some friends from Monsanto, and I'm the photographer. And after about 1 hour, this Amish farmer said, "So why to hell don't you bring some of your Monsanto seeds? We will try them out. We will build them. We will try to cultivate transgenic plants." And that's what they did. The old order Amish farmers who are known as ultra-conservative, but in science, they have their own views. It was a wonderful meeting, I can tell you. Yeah, sustainable world is a topic which we all want to achieve. And we must do that in agriculture, as I explained, and we must do it in socio-economics, and we must do it in technology itself. It's not enough time to talk about the complicated and intricate system of how to achieve the sustainable world. A lot of people just concentrate on one or two things and then they think that's enough for a sustainable world. The sustainable world is a topic which needs all activities of humanity put together in a single nice goal. So, for instance, there is still a lot of debate going on about product or process-oriented regulation of GMOs, and I think that's a senseless debate. We need both. We need to have the process looked at and the product looked at for regulation of modern plant breeding. Just a few jokes in the end. This is not real. This is an example of a fake campaign in Madagascar, but which was very popular. I'd rather be blind than eat golden rice, which I talked about. But actually, he made a fake campaign, and he was very successful with it. Madrid doctors also came up with a very successful fake campaign in Madrid. A lot of press published their nonsense declaration, and a week later they said, hey, it was just a joke, and we want to show you how fundamentalists can lie properly. This is the guy who should have been dead. He survived nicely in this Madrid event. Did you know that our bank notes are made out of transgenic cotton? A lot of people would be afraid to touch it now, but actually it's quite harmless. Euro bills are actually made out of transgenic cotton. I gave a lot of studies about that, and it's true. It's true. So here you have, in the final slide, you have some reviews about literature, and you can always ask me. You have my email address at the top. And I have the world's biggest databases on literature, according to the specialists, 700 EndNote databases. And there's a lot of literature around. And